is now time to get a look at what's happening with weather with Market Journal's Chief Meteorologist Eric Hunt. Eric, some folks in the state still looking for rain, while others say at least at this point they've had enough. How are things shaping up as we turn to the week ahead?
Thanks, Bryce. Definitely some chances of rain for most everybody in the state this week. Starting off with, though, on Monday, it's going to be very, very warm across the state. Temperatures at least the 90s, probably even getting to lower 100s across the Kansas border and in parts of the Panhandle. As we move to Tuesday, that ridge should move a little bit further toward the west, and there is a short wave moving into the upper Midwest that should actually give the potential for some severe thunderstorms, or at least thunderstorms across portions of the western Corn Belt on Tuesday. Right now, the WPC is not real bullish on precipitation, but this may be a dud. It may actually be a lot better than this Tuesday night into Wednesday morning. Something to pay attention to. As we move toward later in the week, we'd actually see another disturbance moving across the northern plains of the southern Canadian prairies. That should back up the temperatures a little bit and should also bring a chance of rain for pretty much the entire state. Certainly the eastern two-thirds of the state stand a good chance of seeing some pretty good precipitation amounts. And right now, the European ensemble shows a relatively good chance of 1 inch or more of moisture in the next 7 to 10 days. That's actually going out through next Saturday. Greatest chances across north central Nebraska. We're likely to see some of this before you see this on Saturday morning. The CPC 8 to 14 day outlook getting into about the 4th of July shows a good chance of above average precipitation for pretty much the entire central U.S. This is, at least for eastern Nebraska and into the upper Midwest, this is shown on the European model as being relatively wet, showing a little bit drier across portions of the Panhandle where you don't want it to be any drier than what it has been. This also is mimicking the GFS with maybe showing relatively wet conditions across most of the central U.S. In terms of temperatures, the CPC in the 8 to 14 day outlook shows relatively warm temperatures across pretty much the entire U.S. except for the Pacific Northwest, with the warmest temperatures off to our southwest and on the East Coast. The European model keeps us relatively warm in this time period, but the GFS keeps western Nebraska warm, though it's probably showing some troughing into the central United States as we head toward the 4th of July. So if this verifies, it may actually be at least somewhat more pleasant by the time we get to the early July time frame. Towards the drought monitor, some good news is we did see the eradication of the final bit of drought across southeastern Nebraska. Unfortunately, we had some drought introduced across portions of the Panhandle where we've been quite dry in the last 60 days. So Scottsbluff up toward Harrison, the last 60 days, we're running 2 to 3 inches short of normal. And again, in that part of the state, that's relatively significant. Other dry pockets include southern Lancaster County, parts of Holt County, and parts of Cherry County. In terms of veg dry, also shows relatively dry conditions across most of the western portion of the state, particularly kind of between Scottsbluff and Banner counties, which has had a relatively dry signal on veg dry for about the last month. Precipitation, heaviest amounts in Falls City, around Norfolk, and up toward just east of Valentine, and out in Garden County. And soil moisture, generally speaking, we are in the near normal percentile range for most of the state, with a couple of pockets of drier soils across southwestern Nebraska, and certainly out here in the Panhandle where we've been driest. Very, very wet in the upper Midwest and drying out very quickly here across the eastern Corn Belt. Good news report on the stress degree days. Nothing significant report just yet across Nebraska. We'll see if this accelerates the next couple of weeks. It was a cool morning across most of the Panhandle yesterday morning with temperatures in the 40s, and some places even dipping into the mid-30s. Soil temperatures mostly in the mid-60s to the mid-70s statewide, and this is our temperature and precipitation roundup for the last 7 days. Thanks. Back to you, Bryce.